Okay, so today we actually continue being lazy, right? And I love it. I love trying to be lazy when you're talking about programming, right? Because that's what we are doing. Programming, developing software, basically allow human to be more efficient, right? In other ways, allow us to have more free time. Um, in class exercise due the same day or some can we submit later. This semester, I would like to make sure that you at least submit it by the basically by 1 week after when the class ends. I used to have a policy where everyone can submit toward the end of the semester. Just do it whenever you can, right? That doesn't work because what happened is once in class exercise period comes into play, basically the second half of the class, no one is on Discord. There's no one working on the in-class exercise and no one work on the in-class exercise period. And then homework hits you guys and you're like, oh, homework's too hard. I'm like, yeah, obviously, because you did not have a chance to actually program and work on something much easier, right? So we are going to change and switch gear a little bit. You have technically, I would like you to submit by the end of that day, but I'll give you 7 more days for that. Basically, if you cannot finish it late submission is okay for up to 7 days. All right. So does it answer your question? All right. So let's begin the class, right? So here today we will talk about, before we talk about shell scripting, we need to first talk about dealing with multiple names, right? Because we start to talk about environment variable, right? And now we talk about each program or each command we run are actually file in the computer. So how many of you have file with the same name but at a different places? Anyone have anyone have a file in your computer that behave like that? Song one, song two, things like that, and then there's like another directory is song one again, or something along that line. Does it happen? Is this common? So many of us do, right? Yeah, that too. Like it's like sometimes it's bad habit, sometimes it's actually by choice. So let's say I have a executable called ls, right, under my current working directory, and I want to run this version of ls, not the one in /bin/ls. What you need to do here is you need to then provide the path so that the computer know, okay, go to this current directory through this dot slash, right? You say, hey, this is the ls command in my current directory. And it's not other ls command. If it's not there, it will say command not found. As simple as that, right? Why is this useful? Why is this useful? What are the unique property of Unix? Unique property of Unix is multi-user, multitasking. It means that many of you can log in at the same time, right? Many of you can log in at the same time. Unless we all used Python before, right? Everyone familiar with Python. So how do I run Python code? Let's say I have I have something .py. How do I run it? Yeah, you do something like Python, right? Tests, I guess, .py, right? So let's say in the computer, I like the administrator, like and the admin configure this Python to be Python version 3. Let's say it's 3.8, right? The newer version of Python. But then when you log in, like I don't want Python 3.8. I want my own version of Python, which is Python 2. Actually, there exist multiple codes in Python that still need Python 2. It's one of the common version that you still see rotating and use nowadays, right? How do I do that? I can't just type in Python, right? I can't just type in Python test.py. So one way you can do this is, well, one thing you can do, you can install Python 2 on your home directory and then make sure you point to that version of Python. You can also make an alias. Make an alias is like making a shortcut. You make a shortcut, yeah, a shortcut inside your home directory that's called Python. But instead of linking to Python version 3.8, you now link to Python version 2, and then you can actually now use this and not new, but the older version of Python, right? And because multiple users are using the computer and the server at the same time, these allow you to use your own specific setup. You now can specify the specific setup of the command, of the tools, of the API that you want to use for your own program. All right. And then now we talk about executable, right? Executable basically when you run. These are files where the computer know how to run these, right? This can be any program, a valid binary file, right? So what's a binary file? Anyone here know why it's called binary file? What does binary mean? Yeah, it's ones and zero, right? So it's a file that consists of just tons of ones and zero. Literally, if you open the file, you get some junk text. If you open any random executable file, right, on Notepad, what are you gonna see? If you drag and drop it on Notepad, what will you see there? Okay, first question, will Notepad open my file? Anyone use Windows and Notepad? Can you open random like executable file? Throw the file on Notepad and see if it's open or not. You can, yes. What are you gonna get? Some random letters, right? Those random letters actually is consists of a bunch of ones and zero. Yeah, it's just a bunch of alien symbols, right? Toward the end of this class, in the third module, we will actually learn why are these just ones and zero, and why does the computer how does the computer actually understand how to read these things and run whatever you're supposed to run. All right. So that can be one thing that you can execute, right? Valid binary file. Another thing is called a script. A script is a bash script or Python script, right? These are a list of commands specific to whatever interpreter that you're doing. Basically, you want to run. What does interpreter mean? What does this word mean? Is translate, right? So basically, you have a command that translates to something the computer know what to do. So, for example, if you want to run a bash script, right, it's basically a list of Linux command that you can write in a file similar to Python file, and then you run, right? What you need to do is to tell what type of script it is using what we call shebang. It actually used that word. Like this is the definition of this letter, like pound and exclamation mark. We call this shebang. And for example, if you do shebang in the top of your file, shebang slash bin slash bash, right? Basically, it means that for this file, like for this file, run using slash bin slash bash. Use the program called bash to run the command. Bash is a shell. Anyone know what bash stand for? Anyone happen to know that? This is a shell program. So I guess the sh. Anyone want to guess what the sh stand for? Shell. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's actually yes, that's correct. It's born again shell. It was kind of like we like playing with words. But yeah, we call this bash or born again shell. And when no one used the word born again shell anymore, that's why I asked like, okay, anyone know what it actually stand for. But you can use this to run a list of shell commands so they can control the computer. Then let's say you have Python scripts. It's not going to run through shell. In this case, it would run through Python. So you use shebang/user/bin/python to point to the make sure the computer know, okay, use Python to run this file, right? And for these type of executable, right? For this type of executable, you need to make sure it has the executable flag on. It means that I can run this file. Even though you are the owner of the file, if you don't have the executable flag on, the computer will not run it for you. All right, any question before we move on to shell scripting? All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to type it in. In the meantime, let me move on to motivate why you want to do shell scripting. So this part will be like kind of like a rah-rah speech where what will be the benefit of learning the next 30-40 minutes of my lecture, right? So how many people want to be lazy? How many people want more free time? I think it's all right. Yes. I mean, to be honest, right? If I have more free time, I can play more games. Like actually, I have so many games on my Steam account that I bought, and I haven't even get the chance to play. My queue is so long that at this point I can buy like game on a deep discount, and I haven't even played those games before. So I don't even have to pay like the premium for new games because I haven't even checked the old game yet, right? But we all are in that situation. Um, I guess that too, no money. But in any case, right? We all want to be as lazy as possible. Don't take a loan just to buy games, guys. This is a bad decision. Anyway, so we want to be lazy, right? And for us, right? If we can make our life as a developers and programmer more efficient, why wouldn't we, right? So my answer to this is like, why wouldn't we? We want to be lazy. So in this case, what I'm gonna teach you next is you can then write a series of command in Linux to a file, right? For example, let's start with something that looks really not like useless, to be honest, but it will show you that you can do this too. I'll start with shebang, right? I say, hey, for this file, this thing are shell script, use bash to run. Then inside this, what I do, I say echo hello into the file called test.txt. And then I copy the file called test.txt into text.txt. And I actually still not sure why I use this tongue twister as an example because now my tongue is twisting. And then I do the cat command. What does the cat command do? What does the cat command do? Hint, it doesn't generate a cat. Yes, it's concatenate. Well, it's concatenate, and if you have only one input, it will just print out what's the content of the file, right? It doesn't add, it doesn't execute, it basically concatenate if it's multiple file. If it's one file, just print out the content of that file. Then I remove text.txt. So what actually happened here is I create a file called test.txt, generate one file called text.txt, print them out, and remove that file. Again, that's why I said this is a really useless script, right? But in our assignment, you see what else can we do with shell scripting. This example is actually really easy. That's why I use it to show you that hey, you can kind of string together multiple commands, right? You can also define a variable in a shell script. Now it becomes more of a programming, right? You can name names. You can assign numbers to name. You can assign string or letters to name, right? So let's go through some example because unless we go through the example, it's not going to be as clear, right? So here's an example. Again, shebang. Can someone tell me what does the second line do? So this is the first line, second line. third line, fourth line, fifth line, sixth line, and seventh line. What does the second line do? Exactly. So when you see an equal sign, what does equal sign do in computer science and programming? It assigns whatever's to the right into the left, right? Now, there's a variable created called greeting, and the inside greeting, that's a value. The value is welcome, right? So over here, these are the variable that we have, right? Greeting. And then the value of the variable is what? What's the value of greeting? Right? So what does the third line do? Who am I is a command. And let me tell you who am I would basically print out the username, right? So let's say my username is Rashada. So what would happen here? So you see dollar sign, you see the equal sign. Exactly, right? It who am I will print out my name, but I'm not gonna basically show that on the screen because I have this dollar sign around it. Dollar sign basically make that thing a value. So my name becomes the value that I can then assign to user, right? So now user, you have what? You basically have the string Rashada, right? What happened in the fourth line? Well, date is a command that print out the date, month, year kind of format. The plus %a is an option that basically said get me the day of today. So what day is today? Can someone tell me what day is today? It's Tuesday, right? So in this case, what should be inside the variable day? Tuesday. Yes, you're correct. So what should get print when I run the fifth line? So when I run the fifth line, actually there are only 6 lines, my bad. When I run the fifth line, what should I see? What am I gonna see here on the echo thing? What would get printed? Ah, yes. Like that's that's a really yeah, sure, yes. So basically we say, welcome back, Rashada. Today is Tuesday, which is the best day of the entire week, which is a lie, because the next day you log in, you're gonna see, welcome back, Rashada. Today is Wednesday in the same speech, right? Yes, exactly that, right? So this is how you can, for example, run this script when you log in, so that whenever you log in the server, there's some greeting, fancy greeting to your terminal, right? It's possible. Might sound not as useful. We cannot be lazy yet, but we can be fancy for now, right? And then the sixth line, your bash shell version is then this is the environment variable. It will basically say, hey, the bash version is blah blah blah. Enjoy, right? That's it. So this is how you can use variable in shell script. And because you've seen that variable is possible, right? It means that you can do more things with this. For example, right? What if I actually this is what is one thing that's pretty common, right? Who want to create backup for your directory and make sure that backups will get archived every single day or every single week. Anyone think that would be useful? Right? So how about we create the script so that when you have assignment due, you can say, hey, Ajahn, I lost my file. And I'm like, didn't you back it up? Didn't I teach you how to back it up? So yeah, so now you don't have any reason to. Right. So let's go through the script. This whole thing is a comment. Whenever you see pound sign in front is a comment. User pound who am I? So in this case, user is a variable that takes in the username. So let's say Rashada. Now in the next line, so line number 1, line number 2, line number 3, line number 4, line number 5, and line number 6. Line number 2, what happened is now input would get what? What should be the input? /home/Rashada, right? Basically /home/Rashada. Now output is a variable again, right? It'll be /temp/ in the bracket Rashada _home _ the date 2022-05. What day is today? 03 hour minute second .tar.gc. So that's my output. Then the fourth line is a command that do the compression, right? tar is a command that archive files. Basically, it group files together into one single file. -c. This is use compression. Basically, zip the file. And then $output, $input. In this case, what would happen? Now I'm gonna basically compress everything in /home/Rashada, save it in this /temp/ blah 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 blah. Now I just created a backup for your entire home directory, right? At /temp. Now every single week, if you somehow lost file, you can now go look at /temp and hopefully some backups are there, right? And then the fifth line is say backup of /home/Rashada, completed details about the output backup file, ls-l, and then output basically the location of the file, right? So you can use this to back up your file. Right? Now you can see that, hey, I can start to do useful things, right? You can also use spatial variable. Somehow you don't know what's the variable name, right? Somehow you want things like, if I run the command, how many arguments do I have? So $pound, because pound is usually associated with numbers. That's how I would remember this, right? Pound is associated with numbers. $pounds will tell you how many arguments are in the input when you run the command. $0 is the first thing in the command, which is the actual script name, right? So let's say I have a script called test.sh, and then when I run it, I do this /test.sh input 1, input 2. So there are two inputs, input 1 and input 2. The command name is test.sh. $0 is this, test.sh. $1 is the next thing in the command, which is this. This is $1, and this would be $2. So in this case, cat a.text, b.text, c.text. What is $0? Which one of these cat a.text, b.text, c.text is $0? Cat, yes, this is $0. This is going to be $1. This is going to be $2, and this is going to be $3. So why is this useful? It's useful because now you know what's the input. So let's say your script has something to do with some inputs. In this case, yeah, then you can use $1, $2, $3 to double check and use the input to the command. You can then use $star and $@. Both of them are basically the entire command line. In this case, cat a.text, b.text, c.text, the entire thing. You can add quote to the command line argument as well. That would basically interpret the value in a string format. One more thing, $? Can be useful. Basically, it actually checks what's the status of the last program to exit. Anyone here seen things like HTTP 404 or something like that before? When you browse the internet and see like 404, anyone wondering what does it mean? So have you seen it? Yeah, it's an error, right? So the number means something. Anyone want to guess what does the number mean? It's a status code, right, that comes from the HTTP request. 404 suggests that the page you're trying to access doesn't exist, right? It's not there. It's not found, right? So when you look at status, when you run certain things, right, there's also a status tag to that as well. Sometimes your program doesn't finish properly, right? Anyone happen when you play games and it just crash, right? How many times does it happen to your life when you play games and it suddenly crash and you forgot to save the game? Yeah, sometimes actually so often. It's like, why does it happen so much? But the thing is, when you, yeah, that could be really. I've heard it really, really hard too, right? It's like one of the Soul series, right? It literally happened to you yesterday. So when this happens, sometimes they actually have exit status of the program. So it can tell when you have to debug the program or trying to figure out what's wrong with it. There's some clue into what could have gone wrong. So you can use this $? To get the exit status. Sometimes I get a beefier GPU also doesn't fix the problem too, right? It depends on what is the exit state, what's the crash status of that program. Anyone here get the blue screen that got something related to memory corruption? If you use Windows, you've seen blue screen before, all of you, right? For sure. Yeah, and in some cases, if you're fast enough, right? Oh my God, your RAM died mid game. Is that actually what happened? Yeah, so I'm still waiting for that answer. Like, is your RAM dying again? Oh, okay. Not sure if that's possible, but anyway, so blue screen will give you the error code as well. Like so these are status messages that you can use to hint whatever is trying to communicate. In that case, blue screen is trying to communicate with you. So if you're fast enough and you catch that error, you see there's a code with that, and you can actually Google that code and it will tell you what's going on. Sometimes it's hard drive that looks problematic. So Windows say, hey, I'm gonna crash myself because whatever it's trying to do is bad, right? Whatever it's trying to do is bad. Um, yeah, if you have a RAM and it's 6 years old, it's possible that it can go wrong. I do a lot of research that are related to memory. So this actually is something close to home for me. My advisor research group is one of the group. I think he has the most paper about DRAM in the world actually. So we do a lot of DRAM related research. And one thing I can tell you, right? These things are more and more reliable. I'm not my bad, unreliable, because you want to make DRAM as small as possible. So things that can happen. Suddenly bit flip because you cannot sense whether that's a high voltage or low voltage. You're operating in the 1.5 volts range. So high voltage means anything more than 8.8. Low voltage means anything more, less than 0.6. That's a really, really narrow gap, right? So if suddenly something that reads 0.85 and 1 millisecond later it reads 0.6, what happened? You flip a bit, right? From 1 to 0, your value change. Your value suddenly change. Windows can try to detect that, and when those things happen, generally it's a bad thing. So it crashes itself, right? There's many things that you have to do in DRAM to kind of uh, mitigate. I'll use the word mitigate a problem. I'm not gonna say fix the problem because it's like it's something that we have to live with, right? We just basically need to find a way to mitigate it. ECC, error correction code. So in the chat, someone said ECC. Sorry, random. ECC is error correcting code. It basically is a way to encrypt your data with an additional information so that you can correct any error up to a certain number of bits. That's why server, you typically would use ECC DRAM because server cannot afford to reboot itself, right? Imagine this. Imagine you use Amazon Web Service, AWS, and suddenly the server just turned off because you have a bad memory. What would happen to other user? Somehow my server just crashed because of one bit flip. Is this something that possible? As in, is it something that should be avoided at all costs when you're running a server? Yeah, and I think we all agree, right? So there are many things that you can do to pay a little bit more and make the DRAM a little bit more reliable. But let's come back to the content of this class. Sorry again, I go sidetracked. These error code is something that you can use to debug, to figure out what's wrong and to mitigate the problem. So this $ question mark, again, $ question mark is to get the exit status of the last program to exit so that you know what is going on with you, right? So you can check what's going on with you. So what else? I said you can put quotes in, right? What are quotes? Can someone type the quotation sign on the chat so that your friends know what quotation means? Yeah, those things. Thank you. So there's multiple way you can quote, right? So we may have a string and there's no quotation around it. Basically, those are string. Treat it as a bunch of letters. Any question about this? Any question about this? This is a simplest one. If I have a series of letters without any quotation signs, treat them as just series of letters. A quote string, a literal string, but if you have the $ in the quoted string, something like this, hi, $ temp, basically means that I have a string hi followed by whatever value is in temp. So $ followed by a variable name becomes a value. So how can I get rid of this problem if I want to just actually print $temp for some reason? I don't want the value. I want $temp. Then you can do single quote. This would actually get you hi $temp, right? Hi $temp. But then again, if you have a command, right? Command like ls, for example, who am I, or pwd, print working directory. If you have the code in this format, they are executed, the output is insert as if it's assigned to the variable, then you evaluate the variable. Basically, the output becomes a part of the string. All right. So if you do $bracket, okay, quick, a few things at a time. The backslash, great question. It does. You mean the escape character, right? It works. It works unless you do the literal string quote, like the one single quote. All right. So from quotation and different format of quotation, there's also conditional statement where you can do less than, greater than, equal, not equal, less than. less or equal, sorry, greater or equal. But what anything you find kind of unique here, anything that looks weird from like a typical Python scripting. So one thing that you might have noticed, the for the number we use dash followed by the name like LT for less than and GT for greater than. And for a string comparison, then you use a symbol. So this is the part where you have to remember strings comparison is symbol, number comparison is dash followed by the name. All right. Then the second thing that is actually one of the most common problem in your assignment one is, do you notice that in here, what are the thing I just highlight? What are the thing I just highlight? That's a space, yes. Is anyone want to guess why we have to put space in between each argument inside this uh, equation that we want to compare, or bracket? To be honest, it's actually much easier to process because if I have the open bracket followed by number, then you have to figure out, okay, is that number a part of the open bracket or is it not? In this case, yeah, it's just a separate symbol, right? If it's no space, the whole thing that are connecting is interpreted as one long thing. So in this case, it's like each of the symbol that added as the options, arguments, or the command. All right. So make sure you are aware that in shell scripting, spacing is important. You need to put space in between these kind of value and um, symbol, right? What else? Let's look at this, right? Again, now what should I get as a result? Now I'm gonna, how about we do a 5 minutes break? How about we do a 5 minutes break, right? And then someone tell me what should get printed. All right? Because I think we are more than halfway through the content of this lecture actually. Before we go to in-class exercise. So let's do 5 minutes break. We'll resume at, let's say, 2:50, and then we'll when we are back, can like when someone tell me what should get printed. All right. I'm gonna pause the recording so that when the video is posted, it won't have this awkward 5 minutes in the middle. All right. That's actually a really good question on the chat because one of you basically tries to do the shebang /bin/bash and it doesn't work, right? What does the message give you? C shell event not found /bin/bash. So from this wording, right? Oh, sorry, let me write CSH event not found /bin/bash. Anyone wants to take a guess what happened? So let me give you a hint. Is bash the only shell program in the world? Nope. And what happened is from the messages, right? Your shell program that you're running and doing right now is called C shell, CSH. So you would then change, in that case, the shebang to wherever C shell is located. I think it's in /bin/CSH, something like /bin/C shell. Because basically it yeah, something like that. But I need to double check if that's where C shell is. I think they are, but maybe I could have been wrong, right? But in any case, let's come back to this code and the code example. So what happened here? You assign number 400 to num A, 200 to num B. Then if num A is less than num B, I will print num A is less than num B, else I will print num A is greater than num B. If else, this basically tells when the if else block ends. It basically tells that's the end of the if else, right? Because shell is pretty primitive. Whatever you do, you have to kind of tell what's going on. So in this case, it's if, else, and then fi, the inverse of if, basically tell the head is the ending of the else. Because 400 is greater than 200, so you're basically printing 400 is greater than 200, which is this line. All right. What else can we do? Let's say you want to have a chat for your own script, right? You create a really awesome shell script. You want it to run, but you want to make sure if you want this script to run, it definitely take in more than one input. So you want to make sure if it's only the command without any input, you say illegal number of parameters. You can do that. You can then use this command to check if the command equals to this particular string or not. So basically replace your string with something you desired, and then it would echo yes or no. So those can be done too. So you can use if else this way. If then, and then the end of the if block. And if you want to do if then else, if then else, and the end of the if block by using fi to specify the end, right? You can also, with the if else, what's the next thing? Anyone want to guess what's the next thing we're going to talk about? After variable, after if else, after conditional, like less than, yes, exactly. Loop, right? Makes sense. A typical 101 programming, right? How do you loop? For you can do I in 1, 2, 3. Do, and then whatever you want to do is in here, and then done. Notice you have to do and done. Again, you have to give hints to shell. That's the keyword. Do, whatever is after this in the loop. Done means that that's the end of my loop. All right. For loop, what else? While loop. Again, yeah, not surprising at all, right? While counter is less than 3, do let counter is counter plus 1. Let counter equals counter plus 1. This allows you to kind of overwrite and increment the counter and overwrite the value. Echo counter. So in this case, what will get print? What will get print? Can someone read this and tell me what get print? 1, 2, 3. Yes. It should be 1, then loop 2, then loop 3, right? It starts from 0, guys. Start from 0. You go into the loop. This is 0 less than 3. Yes. Add 1 to it first. Print them out. Followed by is 1 less than 3. Yes. So loop it again. Add 1 to that. So print out 2. 2 less than 3, right? So you add 1 to that. You print out 3. Is 3 less than 3? No. So you exit the loop. So one last thing before we adjourn into Discord and have a discussion on the in-class exercise and any discussion about the assignment. What does this do? Can someone tell me what does this do? Again, word count. So basically word count, but with dash C, this basically count character. So this is a combination of loop, type, and other command. Cat item.text shows that inside the file item.text is dash scripting tutorial. So what is going to print after I run this? So what does the first part do? Actually, let's first break it down by trying to figure out what does this part do? What does this do? Yes, you got the answer, 498. But to get to the answer, first you have the loop, right? You loop in item dot text. And then basically what you want to do is print, right? Print each line. Print each line. But instead of showing that on the screen, you use pipe. So you use pipe. Let me change the color for my ink. This is pipe. Pipe the output of each line into the word count program. So the first time you loop in, you get bash. Count the character in bash. Then you count the character in scripting, and then you count the character in tutorial. So afterward, what you're gonna get is 498. All right, 498. And that's it for today's lecture part. I finally got a perfect 1 hour lecture so that we can use the rest of the time for in-class exercise. I post a bunch of reference, oh my bad. There's quite a lot of reference on shell scripting. And to be honest, Stack Overflow is a really, really, really good resource for shell scripting. I'm sure you can find most things over there. Make sure you understand what's going on. Right? Make sure you understand what's going on. Homework 1 is out. There are 4 problems. 2 of them should be really, really easy. So those should be 3 points. The other 2 should be fun. I'll leave the definition of fun to you guys. You can tell me after you submit this. Yeah, assignments. Right now it's a quotation fun. It's due Wednesday, May 11. This is actually less time than last semester. Last semester you have the full 2 weeks for that, but you have more problems. What I figure is I want to rebalance the workload a little bit. So shell scripting, less work, more C lab, so that we can focus on the important stuff for this class. All right. Yeah, 2 should be fun, and the other 2 is the easy ones. And everyone that I teach for this class tell me I lie all the time. So I'm sure give me the verdict later, right? About whenever I said easy and whenever I said fun. But I'm gonna defend myself. I mean, I can't motivate you guys. I don't know how to motivate you to start early and doing those. So yeah, I just smile and say it's fun. And we have in class exercise 3 is a simple scripting. It's just basically follow the steps on the in-class exercise. All right. So we will now migrating over to Discord. It will be on Discord. Discord. We will be on Discord. I will join Discord in about 2 minutes. Feel free to leave the session. It's fine. I guess I'll just keep it open in case someone asks me a question through the chat. But right now is the end of the lecture part, and we'll move on for the in-class exercise 3 on Discord. All right. I'll stop the recording for now.